Hello everybody. Look, this time I got the inclination for you guys to watch the view when it comes up. We're going back into George MacDonald's book because it has profound implications in our lives, but you can just go into it because you're trusting that you're here for a reason. Okay, look. There's the grand ocean. All right, let me check one more thing for my dog. I don't know if she'll drink this. Lele. Okay, she doesn't want this water. All right. Okay, so my name is DrCherylMeier. I'm a psychologist in my day job, and I'm gonna go to our secret spot overlooking the ocean. Look at this. There's no tractors today. Last time there were tractors. Okay, so let me tell you about George MacDonald a little. C.S. Lewis considered him his spiritual master, okay? So we're in good hands. What did they do to my spot? When he wrote the book, The Great Divorce, C.S. Lewis is the guy that wrote Mere Christianity and the Narnia books. And so when he wrote his book, The Great Divorce, where he's going into heaven, then George MacDonald was his guide into that and taught him how to walk the heavenly way. And he said, no author has he found that's more near to the spirit of Christ, of the Holy Spirit. So I kept getting the message from up above to start this book. So for us, right? Because you have to learn how to quiet your outer mind, because your outer mind will tell you to chase for all the things that the world is chasing, and will scorn you and try to make you feel like an idiot if you don't chase those things. And so, like, I just uploaded Jack and the Beanstalk, just my phone reading it for us, because there's all these amazing spiritual truths in that anyway, you can explore that yourself if you're called to. It's from the Red Fairy book. Let's stay with this book. Where we are right now, and if you're just catching up right now, this is your first video, don't worry at all. It's called a children's book, but I was tweeting the other day Tolkien's essay on fairy stories again. I think I tweeted it back in 2012. Anyway. So in that book, Tolkien talks about why adults need fairy stories, why this is so important for us to quiet down our mind and connect with these higher truths that the world will kind of muffle out. So I just say that all the time. Trust that you're here for a reason. All right. Here we are. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore I lack nothing. Whether we recognize it or not, the Almighty, I am that I am, is our shepherd. And I mean, if we yield to him, he's even more so. The Holy Spirit will make us, what C.S. Lewis says, into little Christs. It's called theosis. All right, I want to just get the view for you. I'm sort of on an angle, so if you're obsessive and this is not at the right angle, then don't, I want to be mindful of everyone, but I can't please everyone. Here we go. All right, that's better. Okay. This is just like life. Sometimes you just have to let go and let God. I just realized that I need to be on the other side so that, because the mic is on that side. But whatever, we'll deal. Okay. So we were just on the part where Curdy, this is called on the back, not Curdy, this is Diamond. This is called At the Back of the North Wind. And it's from the 1800s, so it's free for us to read. And so Diamond was on the back of the North Wind, and she was about to sink a ship. It sounds like that's what she's about to do. And he's concerned, like, I know you're good, but why are you sinking the ship? And I don't want to see it. So she's taking him to this cathedral. That's as much as I remember from where we were last. Okay, so I'm just going to read this sentence before. Yes, I do, but trying is not much. Yes, it is. Yes, it is a very great deal, for it is a beginning, and a beginning is the greatest thing of all. To try to be brave is to be brave. The coward who tries to be brave is before the man who is brave because he is made so and never had to try. Wow. Think about that for your own life. I mean, I don't know how recent that was for you. But I know yesterday I had to try really hard to be brave. And so I'm sure that's the same for you recently in some way. As long as you're walking this narrow path, anyway, I won't make this a teaching video. Let's just read. Unless I'm called to, but I have to discern that. So beautiful. I encourage you, just take a deep breath and let everything go. If this is just a time for you to enter into this story, then choose intentionally to enjoy it. I have to remind myself all the time, wait, enjoy this moment, whatever it's bringing to me. So the coward who tries to be brave is before the man who is brave because he is made so and never had to try. How kind you are, North Wind. I am only just. All kindness is but justice. We owe it. One more thing is whenever I get confused in life, there's a song I learned when I was at camp or in Bible, Sunday school or something, but I think it's Micah 6:8, but it's just like, he has shown thee, O man, and what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. It's just, I'm like, wait, do justly, love mercy, walk humbly. All right, God, show me how to do that. And he makes us into the people that will do that as well. You have to activate your faith for all of this, the fruits of the Spirit to grow. But God will call you to do that. Call you. It's like from the stillness. Anyway, it's not always doing. It's stillness and doing out of the stillness. But all right. So he says, I'm only just. All kindness is but justice. We owe it. I don't quite understand that. Never mind, you will someday. There is no hurry about understanding it now. Who blew the wind on me that made me brave? I did, but I didn't see you. Therefore, you can believe me. Yes, of course, but how was it that such a little breath could be so strong? That I don't know. But you made it strong. No, I only blew it. I knew it would make you strong, just as it did the man in the boat, you remember. But how my breath has that power, I cannot tell. It was put into it when I was made. That is all I know. But really, I must be going about my work. Oh, the poor ship. I wish you would stop here and let the poor ship go. That I dare not do. Will you stop here till I come back? Yes, you won't be long. No longer than I can help. Trust me, you shall get home before the morning. In a moment, North Wind was gone, and the next, Diamond heard a moaning about the church, which grew and grew to a roaring. The storm was up again, and he knew that the North Wind's hair was flying. All right, let me show you one picture of her, so if you're new, that you'll get a... Here she is. Here's another one. And there's Diamond. He's just a little boy. It's okay, Leia. The church was dark. Only a little light came through the windows, which were almost all of that precious old stained glass, which is so much lovelier than the new. But Diamond could not see how beautiful they were, for there was not enough of light in the stars to show the colors of them. He could only just distinguish them from the walls. He looked up, but could not see the gallery along which he had passed. He could only tell where it was, far up by the faint glimmer of the windows of the clerestory. Clerestory? I don't know that word. Anyway. Whose sills made part of it. The church grew very lonely about him, and he began to feel like a child whose mother has forsaken it. Only he knew that to be left alone is not always to be forsaken. He began to feel his way about the place, and for a while went wandering up and down. His little footsteps walked, little answering echoes in the great house. It wasn't too big to mind him. It was as if the church knew he was there and meant to make itself his home. So it went on, giving back an answer to every step, until at length Diamond thought he should like to say something out loud and see what the church would answer, but he found he was afraid to speak. He could not utter a word for fear of the loneliness. Perhaps it was as well that he did not, for the sound of a spoken word would have made him feel the place yet more deserted and empty. But he thought he could sing. Aw, that's so awesome. I forgot there's singing in this because I read it so long ago before I started singing myself. Except for camp songs, I always was singing those. He was fond of singing, and at home he used to sing to tunes of his own, all the nursery rhymes he knew. So he began to try, hey diddle diddle, but it wouldn't do. Then he tried Little Boy Blue, but it was no better. Neither would Sing a Song of Sixpence sing itself at all. Then he tried Poor Old Cockatoo, but he wouldn't do. They all sounded so silly that he never thought them silly before. Oh, and he had never thought them silly before. Wow, just like I was saying about how the world will mock you and make you feel like an idiot for doing things like this. And, I never think it's a waste of time to set aside some time. It's like if George MacDonald called me and wanted to have coffee with me once a week, I would be like, yes, I will. I am there. I just made this video about, all these people say you become like the 5 people you're most around. Well, I want to be around C.S. Lewis and George MacDonald and Tolkien, J.R. Tolkien, and the saints and people, and the Holy Scriptures and all these people that have surrendered themselves to the truth and to love and to justice and to the highest order. Like this, we're souls. And George MacDonald says that. Do not teach your kids they have a soul. Teach them you are a soul. You have a body. And it's not this weird esoteric thing. It's about or you're only a soul. It's about understanding the priorities, because people can get in spiritual egotism, and that's the danger as well. But when you remember, I am a soul, and I have to remind myself every day. God will remind me if I make time for God of the soul things, like my eternal purpose here, not my temporal one. Colossians 3:3 says, "For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God." It's hidden. Your old life, if you're a Christian, and I welcome all people of all faiths. And I love it in C.S. Lewis's book, in Mere Christianity, he says, God is making lots of people into Christians, and they're not yet calling themselves that. They still call themselves Buddhists or whatever. And, but he's working on them. And some people that call themselves Christians have left it a long time ago, sadly, and they're still calling themselves Christians. And they're not walking the path of Christ. They're not yielding. And now we have no right to judge anybody because we don't know. George MacDonald shows that in one of the other books I read on my YouTube channel. It's like The Princess and the Goblin and The Princess and the Cardi. Both of those. The Princess and the Goblin is first, but I think in The Princess and the Cardi, the second one, Cardi sees his dad going up a hill and someone else going down, but from far away, he says, you can't tell who's going up and who's coming down. Now, Jesus says, by their fruit, you will know them. And in that book, Cardi is given this special gift by the great-great-grandmother who was like the Holy Spirit, like the north wind in a way. And he, only for the sake of the king, and we have a high king, but for the sake of the king, he can feel their hands and feel which animal they're going towards, or if they look like an animal, but they have a real hand inside, they're going towards God, so that he has discernment. It's a gift that was given to him, not for his own use, but for the sake of the body, for the sake of the king, and so you're meant to be king in your own life, but yield it to the highest king. All of us are called to be kings and priests. Read Revelation. I think it's in 4. But anyway, there's a high calling. And so we have to learn how to do that, how to not let our flesh dominate. Our passions dominate us. All right, that's enough. I get the tap on the shoulder. All right, go back to the book. All right, here's him. It looks like he's about to fall asleep in this church. We'll see. In this grand cathedral. I've been to the one in Cologne that Meister Eckhart would preach from, right? I didn't know why I was there. I was there for a video game conference. Anyway, God has other plans for everything. God is the master chessman. He's playing about 1,000 chess games above us. I'm going to lower this a little. It's great. The Lord is my shepherd. Therefore, I lack nothing. There's nothing I lack. There's nothing you lack. When you sit with that truth and you let God be the shepherd in your life, be the one that beats off the wolves, gets them away. Oh, and catches you with the hook. The shepherd's hook when you're going off path. And you don't have to be like the horse that has to be pulled with a bit or bridle. Yield. I think it's a George MacDonald quote, but it says something about it. It's how quickly you obey. That could be someone else. Oh no, but George MacDonald talks about obedience a lot. I remember in C.S. Lewis's anthology. Okay, I'll go back. So they all sounded so silly, and he had never thought them silly before. So he was quiet and listened to the echoes that came out of the dark corners in answer to his footsteps. At last he gave a great sigh and said, "I'm so tired," but he did not hear the gentle echo that answered from far away over his head, for at the same moment he came against the lowest of a few steps and stretched across the church and fell down and hurt his arm. He cried a little first, and then crawled up the steps on his hands and knees. At the top he came to a little bit of carpet, on which he lay down, and there he lay staring at the dull window that rose nearly 100 feet above his head. Now this was the eastern window of the church, and the moon was at that moment just on the edge of the horizon. The next, she was peeping over it, and lo, with the moon, St. John and St. Paul and the rest of them began to dawn in the window in their lovely garments, through the stained glasses. Diamond did not know that the wonder-working moon was behind, and he thought all the light was coming out of the window itself, and that the good old men were appearing to help him, growing out of the night and the darkness, because he had hurt his arm, and he was very tired and lonely. North Wind was so long in coming, so he lay and looked at them backwards over his head, wondering when they would come down or what they would do next. They were very dim, for the moonlight was not strong enough for the colors, and he had enough to do with his eyes trying to make out their shapes. So his eyes grew so heavy that they would keep tumbling down over his eyes. His eyelids grew so heavy that they would keep tumbling down over his eyes. He kept lifting them and lifting them, but every time they were heavier than the last. It was no use, they were too much for him. Sometimes, before he had got them half up, down they were again, and at length he gave it up quite, and the moment he gave it up, he was fast asleep. So this is chapter 8, the east window. That Diamond had fallen fast asleep is very evident from the strange things he now fancied as taking place, for he thought he heard a sound as of whispering up in the great window. He tried to open his eyes, but he could not. And the whispering went on and grew louder and louder until he could hear every word that was said. He thought it was the apostles talking about him, but he could not open his eyes. And how come he to be lying there? St. Peter, said one. I think I saw him a while ago in the gallery, under the Nicodemus window. Perhaps he has fallen down. What do you think, St. Matthew? Wow, I didn't know there were going to be saints in this. I didn't grow up with the saints at all. Of course the devil wants to mock the saints and say that all these people are praying to them and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we're a part of the great body of the mystical saints of all time. If you'd ask your grandmother to pray, it's like I can ask Jesus to ask the saints to pray for me. Even if you go that direction. It's just asking more people that you trust to intercede for you, because sometimes when you've had trauma here on this earth, it's hard for us. It's not an excuse, but it's hard for us to trust people on the earth. Now, it's not to live our lives up there. Like, it is seek first the kingdom of God, but we're still here on our mission. I'm on a mission from God. It used to be a song. It was like a techno song, but anyway. So, I don't think he could have crept here after falling from such a height. He must have been killed. What are we to do with him? We can't leave him lying there. And we could not make him comfortable up here in the window. It's rather crowded already. What do you say, St. Thomas? Aw. There's something about St. Thomas, They call him Doubting Thomas, but one time when Jesus was going to go raise Lazarus, they said, but they want to kill you in that town. And he said, let us go and die with Christ as well. He was daring. He was daring to be daring. If he's going to die, we'll go with him. But it wasn't Christ's time yet. He laid down his own life when it was time. Okay. Let's go down and look at him. There came a rustling and a chinking for some time, and then there was a silence. And Diamond felt somehow that all the apostles were standing round him and looking down on him, and still he could not open his eyes. What is the matter with him, St. Luke? Asked one. There's nothing the matter with him. St. Luke is the doctor, so there's nothing the matter with him, answered St. Luke, who must have joined the company of the apostles from the next window, one would think. He is in a sound sleep. I have it, cried another. This is one of the North Wind's tricks. She has caught him up and dropped him at our door, like a withered leaf or a foundling baby. I don't understand that woman's conduct, I must say. as if we hadn't enough to do with our money without taking care of other people's children. That's not what our forefathers built cathedrals for. Now Diamond could not bear to hear such things against the north wind, who he knew never played anybody a trick. She was far too busy with her own work for that. He struggled hard to open his eyes, but without success. She should consider that a church is not a place for pranks, not to mention that we live in it, said another. It is certainly disrespectful of her, but she always is disrespectful. Okay, we'll see. Maybe this is not the saints. The sunlight's reflecting on it. Spider web. Listen to the birds. I'm hearing blue skies shining at me. Nothing but blue skies do I see. I'm quoting a cover that I heard Ella Fitzgerald sing. For teaching purposes. This is all for teaching purposes, right? For education. To enlighten our heart, lighten, make it lighter and light in, right? Our hearts and souls and minds. Steer us back towards what is just and what is good. Okay, so let's see. It certainly is disrespectful of her. But she always is disrespectful. What right has she to bang at our windows as she has been doing the whole of this night? I dare say there is glass broken somewhere. I know my blue robe is in a dreadful mess, with the rain first and the dust after. It will cost me shillings to clean it. Then Diamond knew that they could not be apostles, okay? Talking like this. They could only be the sextons and vergers and such like, who got up at night and put on the robes of deans and bishops. Whoa, go George MacDonald. It's very comforting to me. You know, I don't want to mistrust everybody in those robes, but that's funny. I already talked about that, and Mere Christianity said that. He said some people that call themselves Christians, even clergy, are no longer that, but they're calling themselves such. Wow, God was warning me on my way up here about this. As much as I want to think good about everybody, I never want to think ill of anybody. I mean, he tells us there are wolves in sheep's clothing. And so there are people that are wolves that wear the shepherd's clothing. Like shepherd can wear the wool that they get from the sheep, from the live sheep. They can shear them and make warm cloaks so they can go and watch over their sheep. And so they look like shepherds because they're wearing these robes. But wow. I love you. When I hear that bird, I always hear, I love you, I love you, I love you. You can rewind and listen to that. It's great. When you felt abandoned a lot and rejected a lot in childhood, God makes it up in consolations like that. I'm not going to make fun of myself at all. Aww. Okay, so they could only be the sextons and vergers and such like who came up at night and put on the robes of deans and bishops and called each other grand names, as the foolish servants he had heard his father tell of call themselves lords and ladies after their masters and mistresses. And he was so angry at their daring to abuse North Wind that he jumped up crying, North Wind knows best what she is about. She has a good right to blow the cobwebs from your windows, for she was sent to do it. She sweeps them away from grander places, I can tell you, for I've been with her at it. This was what he began to say, but as he spoke, his eyes came wide open, and behold, there were neither apostles nor vergers there, nor even a window with the effigies of holy men in it, but a dark heap of hay all about him, and the little panes in the roof of his loft. He lives above the stables of the horses. Glimmering blue in the light of morning. Old Diamond was coming awake down below in the stable. So the horse's name is Diamond, and his father loved his horse so much that he named his child Diamond as well. In a moment more, he was on his feet and shaking himself so that young Diamond's bed trembled under him. He's grand at shaking himself. So Diamond's bed was shaking under himself, but Diamond, the horse, was under that shaking, right? He's grand at shaking himself, said Diamond. I wish I could shake myself like that. But then I can wash myself and he can't. What fun it would be to see old Diamond washing his face with hoofs and iron shoes. Wouldn't it be a picture? So saying, he got up and dressed himself. Then he went into the garden. There must have been a tremendous wind in the night. For although all was quiet now, there lay the little summer house, crushed to the ground, and over it the great elm tree which the wind had broken across, being much decayed in the middle. Diamond almost cried to see the wilderness of green leaves, which used to be so far up in the blue air, tossing about in the breeze, and liking it best when the wind blew it most, now lying so near the ground and without any hope of ever getting up into the deep air again. No wonder I said at the beginning, I don't think I've said that at the beginning of hardly any of these videos, to just take a deep breath. I was watching a video and this guy went to heaven and came back, and he said that Jesus said, when you breathe in me, when you breathe in, you're breathing in my breath that I breathed out. It's a picturesque, beautiful. I like breathing the breath of Jesus Christ. I wonder how old the tree is, thought Diamond. It must take a long time to get so near the sky as that poor tree was. Yes, indeed, said a voice behind him, for Diamond had spoken the last words aloud. Diamond started, and looking round, saw a clergyman, a brother of Mrs. Coleman, that's who his dad works for, is the Colemans, who happened to be visiting her. He was a great scholar and was in the habit of rising early. Right? It's still early now. The sun only came up like 2 hours ago or so. Anyway. So we're rising early for this. Anyway, it's not about proving your worth. Let's just, okay. Who are you, my man? He added. I'm little Diamond, answered the boy. Oh, I have heard of you. How do you come to be up so early? Because the sham apostles talked such nonsense. They waked me up. The clergyman started. Diamond saw that he had better have held his tongue, for he could not explain things. You must have been dreaming, my little man, he said. Dear, dear, he went on, looking at the tree. There has been terrible work here. This is the north's wind's doing. What a pity. I wish we lived at the back of it, I'm sure. Where is that, sir? Asked Diamond. Away in the Hyperborean regions. Hyperborean regions. Yeah, okay, answered the clergyman, smiling. I never heard of the place, returned Diamond. I dare say not, answered the clergyman. But if this tree had been there now, it would not have been blown down, for there is no wind there. But please, sir, if it had been there, said Diamond, we should not have had to be sorry for it. Certainly not. Then we shouldn't have had to be glad for it either. You're quite right, my boy, said the clergyman, looking at him very kindly as he turned away to the house, with his eyes bent towards the earth. But Diamond thought within himself, I will ask North Wind next time I see her to take me to that country. I think she did speak about it once before. That's what this is called, at the back of the North Wind. How Diamond got to the back of the North Wind. Here's chapter 9. When Diamond went home to breakfast, he found his father and mother already seated at the table. They were both busy with their bread and butter, and Diamond sat himself down in his usual place. His mother looked up at him, and after watching him for a moment said, I don't think the boy is looking well, husband. Don't you? Well, I don't know. I think he looks pretty bobbish. How do you feel yourself, Diamond, my boy? Quite well, thank you, father. At least, I think I've got a little headache. There, I told you, said his father and mother both at once. I'm a mom, so I know this. The child's very Very poorly, added his mother. The child's quite well, added his father. And then they both laughed. You see, said his mother, I've had a letter from my sister at Sandwich. Sleepy old hole, said his father. I think it might be where they go by the beach. We'll see. The ocean. Don't abuse the place. There's good people in it, said his mother. Right, old lady, returned his father. Only, she's definitely not old. Look at this. I think it was a term of endearment then, wise. But anyway, returned his father. Only I don't believe there are more than 2 pair of carriage horses in the whole blessed place. Well, people can get to heaven without carriages. That's like that song. Oh, you can't get to heaven in a big canoe. On a great big horse. Have to believe in the Holy Ghost, of course. I'm just making that up. Well, people can get to heaven without carriages or coachmen either, husband. Not that I should like to go without my coachman, But what about the boy? What boy? That boy there, staring at you with his goggle eyes. Have I got goggle eyes, mother? Asked Diamond, a little dismayed. Not too goggle, said his mother, who was quite proud of her boy's eyes. Only did not want to make him vain. Not too goggle. Only you need not stare so. Well, what about him, said his father. I told you I had got a letter. Yes, from your sister, not from Diamond. La, husband, you've got out of bed the wrong leg first this morning, I do believe. I always got out with both at once, said his father, laughing. Well, listen then. His aunt wants the boy to go down and see her, and that's why you want to make out that he ain't looking well. No more he is. I think he had better go. Well, I don't care. If you can find the money, said his father. I'll manage that, said his mother. And so it was agreed that Diamond should go to Sandwich. I will not describe the preparations Diamond made. You would have thought he had been going on a 3-month voyage. Nor will I describe the journey, for our business is now at the place. Oh, wonderful. Oh, I need to be more like that. I'm more like George MacDonald just did in this book, but I'll do it now. He was met at the station by his aunt, a cheerful middle-aged woman. Look, there's a roadrunner. I think that's what it was. Yeah, now she runs. Anyway, and conveyed in safety to the sleepy old town, as his father had called it, and no wonder that it was sleepy, for it was nearly dead of old age. Diamond went about staring with his beautiful goggle eyes at the quaint old streets and the shops and the houses. Everything looked very strange indeed. He was in London, before. For here was a town abandoned by its nurse, the sea, like an old oyster left on the shore till it gaped for weariness. It used to be one of the 5 chief seaports in England, but it began to hold itself too high, and the consequence was that the sea grew less and less intimate with it, gradually drew back, and kept more to itself, till at length it left it high and dry. Sandwich was a seaport no more. The sea went on with its own tide business a long way off, and forgot it. Of course, it went to sleep, and had no more to do with ships. That's what comes to cities and nations and boys and girls who say, I can do without your help. I am enough for myself. Well, we never do that, right? Here's a picture. Diamond soon made great friends with an old woman who kept a toy shop, for his mother had given him 2 pence for pocket money before he left, and he had gone into her shop to spend it. And she got talking to him. She looked very funny because she had not got any teeth, but Diamond liked her and went often to her shop, although he had nothing to spend there after the 2 pence was gone. One afternoon he had been wandering rather wearily about the streets for some time. It was a hot day and he felt tired. As he passed the toy shop, he stopped in. Please, may I sit down for a minute on this box, he said, thinking the old woman was somewhere in the shop, but he got no answer and sat down without one. It's okay, Leia. It's okay. All right, here's the other picture. Around him were a great many toys of all prices, from a penny up to shillings. All at once he heard a gentle whirring somewhere amongst them. It made him start and look behind him. there were the sails of a windmill going round and round, almost close to his ear. Windmill, get it? The north wind. I'm guessing what. Well, I'll let you. Oh, look, there is the toy shop. Look, there's a little horse, pole horse, right? I love you. See, you didn't need to rewind. Okay, let me get this. She keeps going around the tripod with her leash. Where are you coming? All right. So there's a windmill going round and round, almost close to his ear. He thought at first it must be one of those toys which are wound up and go with clockwork, but no, it was a common penny toy. With the windmill at the end of a whistle, and when the whistle blows, the windmill goes. But the wonder was that there was no one at the whistle end blowing, and yet the sails were turning round and round. Now faster, now slower, now faster again. What can it mean? Said Diamond aloud. It means me, said the tiniest voice he had ever heard. Who are you, please? Asked Diamond. Well, really, I begin to be ashamed of you, said the voice. I wonder how long it will be before you know me, or how often I might take you in before you got sharp enough to suspect me. You are as bad as a baby that doesn't know his mother in a new bonnet, right? When your mom wears a new hat, you don't recognize her back then. Not quite so bad as that, dear North Wind, said Diamond, for I didn't see you at all, and indeed, I don't see you yet, although I recognize your voice. Do grow a little, please. Not a hair's breadth, said the voice, and it was the smallest voice that ever spoke. What are you doing here? I am come to see my aunt. But please, North Wind, why didn't you come back for me in the church that night? I did. I carried you safe home. All the time you were dreaming about the glass apostles. You were lying in my arms. I'm so glad, said Diamond. I thought that must be it, only I wanted to hear you say so. Did you sink the ship then? Yes. And drown everybody? Not quite. One boat got away with 6 or 7 men in it. How could the boat swim when the ship couldn't? How could the little boat, you know? Of course, I had some trouble with it. I had to contrive a bit and manage the waves a little. When they're only once thoroughly waked up, I have a good deal of trouble with them sometimes. They're apt to get stupid with tumbling over each other's heads. That's when they're fairly at it. However, the boat got to a desert island before noon the next day. Right? Look, we're looking at the ocean right now. I'd zoom in if I could turn my camera around. So, and what good will come of that? I don't know. I obey orders. Goodbye. Wow, you don't know sometimes. God only shows you a little bit, and you were just meant to yield to, and check the scriptures. It'll always align with scriptures, but it might not align with what other people think is smart or stupid, according to worldly wisdom. Or according to their little box of God, too, sometimes. That's tricky. Anyway. Oh, stay, North Wind, do stay, cried Diamond, dismayed to see the windmill get slower and slower. What is it, my dear child? Said North Wind, and the windmill began turning again so swiftly that Diamond could scarcely see it. What a big voice you've got, and what a noise you do make with it. What is it you want? I have little to do, but that little must be done. I want you to take me to the country at the back of the North Wind. That's not so easy, said North Wind, and was silent for so long that Diamond thought she was gone indeed. But after he had quite given her up, the voice began again. I almost wish old Herodotus had held his tongue about it. Much he knew of it. Why do you wish that, North Wind? Because then that clergyman would never have heard of it and set you wanting to go. But we shall see, we shall see. You must go home now, my dear, for you don't seem very well, and I'll see what can be done for you. Don't wait for me. I've got to break a few of old Goody's toys. She's thinking too much of her new stock. 2 or 3 will do. There, go now. Diamond rose, quite sorry, and without a word, left the shop and went home. It soon appeared that his mother had been right about him, for the same afternoon his head began to ache very much, and he had to go to bed. He awoke in the middle of the night. The lattice window of his room had blown open, and the curtains of his little bed were swinging about in the wind. If that should be North Wind now, thought Diamond, but the next moment he heard someone closing the window, and his aunt came to his bedside. She put her hand on his face and said, "How's your head, dear?" "Better, Auntie, I think." "Would you like something to drink?" "Oh, yes, I should, please." So his aunt gave him some lemonade, for she had been used to nursing sick people. And Diamond felt very much refreshed and laid his head down again to go very fast asleep, as he thought. And so he did, but only to come awake again as a fresh burst of wind blew the lattice open a second time. The same moment he found himself in a cloud of the North Wind's hair, with her beautiful face set in it like a moon bending over him. "Quick, Diamond," she said, "I have found such a chance." "But I'm not well," said Diamond. "I know that, but you will be better for a little fresh air. You shall have plenty of that." "You want me to go then?" "Yes, I do. It won't hurt you." "Very well," said Diamond, and getting out of the bedclothes, he jumped into, out of the blankets. He had his nightgown, but out of the blankets and stuff that were around him, he jumped into North Wind's arms. "We must make haste before your aunt comes," said she, as she glided out of the open lattice and left it swinging. The moment Diamond felt her arms fold around him, he began to feel better. It was a moonless night and very dark, with glimpses of stars when the clouds parted. "I used to dash the waves about here," said North Wind, "where cows and sheep are feeding now, but we shall soon get to them. There they are." And Diamond, looking down, saw the white glimmer of breaking water far below him. "You see, Diamond," said North Wind, "it is very difficult for me to get you to the back of the North Wind, for that country lies in the very north itself, and of course I can't blow northwards." "Why not?" asked Diamond. "You little silly," said North Wind. "Don't you see that if I were to blow northwards, I should be South Wind? And that is as much to say that one person could be 2 persons, right? Where God made us each ourselves. George MacDonald has a beautiful sermon in a book called the Unspoken Sermons. Those are free online, called The New Name, where God gives you the white stone and you'll know your God name. Only, oh, look, I was going to say, here's a white stone. At first I thought that other thing was a stone, but it's part of a shell, seashell. Here's a white stone now. Oh, and here's an even more white stone. It's like when God purifies us, and he says we are living stones, but he's the Word, the Logos. Anyway, and the rock, and all those, and the Good Shepherd, and all this. Okay. And the living water, and the light of the world. But we are called the light of the world as well, and called to be such. Anyway. But how can you, so how can you ever get home at all then? You were quite right. That is my home, though I never get farther than the outer door. I sit on the doorstep and hear the voices inside. I am nobody there, Diamond. I am very sorry. Why? That you should be nobody. Oh, I don't mind it. Dear little man, you will be very glad someday to be nobody yourself. Oh, I love that. But you can't understand that now, and you had better not try, for if you do, you will be certain to go fancying some egregious nonsense and making yourself miserable about it. That's what we do. Our idea of religious instead of just yielding. Then I won't, said Diamond. There's a good boy. It will all come in good time, but you haven't told me how you got to the doorstep, you know. It's easy enough for me. I have only to consent to be nobody, and there I am. I draw into myself, and there I am on the doorstep. But you can easily see, or you have less sense than I think, that to drag you, heavy thing, along with me would take centuries, and I could not give the time to it. Oh, I'm so sorry, said Diamond. What for now, pet? That I'm so heavy for you. I would be lighter if I could be, but I don't know how. You silly darling. Oh. Why, I could toss you 100 miles from me if I liked. It's only when I am going home that I shall find you heavy. Then you are going home with me? Of course. Did I not come to fetch you just for that? But all this time you must be going southwards. Yes, of course I am. How can you be taking me northwards then? A very sensible question, but you shall see. I will get rid of a few of these clouds, only they do come up so fast. It's like trying to blow a brook dry. There, what do you see now? I think I see a little boat away there down below. A little boat indeed. Well, she's a yacht of 200 tons, and the captain of it is a friend of mine, for he is a man of good sense and can sail his craft well. I've helped him many a time when he little thought it. I've heard him grumbling at me when I was doing the very best I could for him. Why, I've carried him 80 miles a day, again and again, right north. He must have dodged for that, said Diamond, who had been watching the vessels and had seen that they went other ways than the wind blew. Of course he must. But don't you see, it was the best I could do. I couldn't be south wind, and besides, it gave him a share in the business. So like he's working a little and she's working. That's how God works with us, right? We have to fly, and then God takes us up to the nest, like the eagle's nest, and makes it all prickly with sticks so that we'll get out. Like, here's sticks going out of my backpack. Look, of course we must, but you don't see it was the best I could do. Anyway, it says, then we share in the business. It's not good at all, mind that, Diamond, to do everything for those you love and not give them a share in the doing. It's not kind. It's making too much of yourself, my child. If I had been south wind, he would only have smoked his pipe all day and made himself stupid. But how could he be a man of sense and grumble at you when you were doing your best for him? Oh, you must make allowances, said North Wind, or you will never do justice to anybody. You do understand, then, that a captain may sail north, in spite of a north wind. Yes, supplemented Diamond. Now, I do think you must be stupid, my dear, said North Wind. Suppose the north wind did not blow, where would he be then? Why, then the south wind would carry him. So, you think that when the north wind stops, the south wind blows. Nonsense. If I didn't blow, the captain couldn't sail his 80 miles away a day. No doubt south wind would carry him faster, but south wind is sitting on her doorstep then. And if I stopped, there would be a dead calm. So you are all wrong to say he can sail north in spite of me. He sails north by my help, and my help alone. You see that, Diamond? Yes, I do, North Wind. I am stupid, but I don't want to be stupid. Good boy, I am going to blow you north in that little craft, one of the finest that ever sailed the sea. Here we are, right over it. I shall be blowing against you. You will be sailing against me, and all will be just as we want it. The captain won't go on so fast as you would like, but he will get on, and so shall we. I'm just going to put you on board. Do you see in the front of the tiller that thing the man is working? Now to one side, now to the other, a round thing like the top of a drum. Yes, said Diamond. Okay, there he was in his aunt's house. Below is where they keep their spare sails and some stores of that sort. I am going to blow the cover off. The same moment I will drop you on the deck, and you must tumble in. Don't be afraid. It is of no depth, and you will fall on a roll of sailcloth. You will find it nice and warm and dry, only dark, and you will know I am near you for every roll and pitch of the vessel. Coil yourself up and go to sleep. The yacht shall be my cradle, and you shall be my baby. Rock, little baby, don't you cry. Thank you, dear North Wind. I am not a bit afraid, said Diamond. In a moment, they were on a level with the bulwarks, and the North Wind set the hatch of the after store rattling away over the deck to leeward. The next, Diamond found himself in the dark, for he had tumbled through the hole as North Wind had told him, and the cover was replaced over his head. Away he went, rolling to leeward, for the wind began all at once to blow hard. He heard the call of the captain and the loud trampling of men over his head as they hauled at the main sheet to get the boom on board, that they might take in a reef in the mainsail. Diamond felt about until he had found what seemed the most comfortable place, and there he snuggled down and lay. Hours after hours, a great many of them, went by, and still Diamond lay there. He never felt in the least tired or impatient, for a strange pleasure filled his heart. The straining of the mast, the creaking of the boom, the singing of the ropes, the banging of the blocks as they put the vessel about, all fell in with the roaring wind above and the surge of the waves past her sides, and the thud with which every now and then one would strike her, while through it all Diamond could hear the gurgling, rippling, talking flow of the water against her planks as she slipped through it, lying now on one side, now on that, like a subdued air running through the grand music his north wind was making about him to keep him from tiring as they sped on towards the country at the back of her doorstep. All right. I have to go at this time today, so that's where we're going to return. It's called At the Back of the North. Oh, it's called How Diamond Got There. What? Wait. No. How Diamond Got to the Back of the North Wind. Wow. Okay. All right. I wish you so much, love. Thanks so much for sharing this time with me. One time my friend Elliot was like telling me about music and how songs are a different kind of art because you share the time with the artist in a way. All right. Much love.